Okay. Right now, moving on to golf. Well, we're looking at from the NCBA greens to chasing the American dream. Mark Namanya, you have a golf scoop on that on both ends of the fairway. So.
Yes, last week we had the NCBA series that took place at Uganda Golf Club. It was quite a fantastic event. We had excellent weather. At UGC, we had a huge turnout. We had some wonderful competition. Ultimately, the person who won was Amani Bo, who he garnered 47 points. The tournament was played via Stableford. It wasn't a medal event, it was Stableford. And it was, we also had some other kids who won. Lucas Kimara, who is the son of my good friend Jimmy Donkara, prevailing among the juniors. And then you had a host of winners across the board, both for the ladies and the gents. But for me, it was a nice thing to see that you have a bank like NCBA, which is heavily involved in Ugandan golf in a series, which is not just going to be played at Uganda Golf Club, but it's going to stretch to the other courses in the country. There will be another series in Jinja, another one in Entebbe, and like I said last week, ultimately the winner for every individual series will be fully sponsored for the grand event by NCBA in Kenya. So you're going to have winners who will be playing across all the series in the region, in Uganda, in Kenya, in Rwanda, and in Tanzania. And like I said, they're very, very particular about developing and transforming golf from the grassroots level. And that's why I was very happy that you have kids like Lucas Kimara. Well, he has such a fantastic swing. This kid who's barely 10 years, I always tease the father that Lucas swings
better than him.
Better than him. Of course, it helps that Lucas learned the game way younger than Jimmy Odonkara did. But it was a good event, and I think the events in Jinja and Entebbe will also be equally as spectacular. We had the glorious 19th hole where there were a couple of questions to test the minds of golfers, both in
a golf quiz at the 19th.
It was a golf quiz at the 19th, okay. But a wonderful tournament there, and I think what NCBA are doing is very, very good in terms of supporting golf, not just in Uganda, by the way, but all over the region, in Tanzania, in Rwanda, and Uganda.
Yeah, but Mark, you want to tell our viewers a bit about that quiz. I found it quite interesting. There were 10 questions, and one of which actually all the golfers failed. I think it would be nice for people to know.
The question
were you present?
Well, I was with Bucket Spirit. I was with Bucket Spirit.
I mean, some of them were teasing questions because many people play golf, but not so many people know how heavy a golf ball is, and people have been striking this ball for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. They don't know how heavy it is. Many people play the game of golf, but they do not know, the actual yardage of Uganda Golf Club. The yardage is 7,200 yards, and somehow none of them could figure this out because no one
They've never bothered to check,
never bothered to check.
But how does 7,200 compare with some of the courses? Say like Oakmont, where the US Open has just happened, for example.
Oakmont obviously was a longer course because the professionals are playing. It was a longer course, obviously, because the professionals play from different teams, from the amateurs.
Yes.
So it's obviously a longer course.
Longer course,
But I don't even want to compare Oakmont to UGC because...
Because okay, don't.
I understand.
What is the yardage compared to Muthaiga? Let's just go to Muthaiga, okay.
Muthaiga is a par 71. I would have to get the yardage of Muthaiga, Mark, to just
to
be sure.
Shorter.
My hunch, my suspicion is that Muthaiga is longer than UGC. I've played both courses, and I think Muthaiga is longer than UGC.
From just your feel?
From just my feel, walking it.
It feels longer. It feels longer.
And
Entebbe or Chigo? Entebbe and Chigo?
Entebbe and Chigo, quite interesting. I think, actually, Entebbe is longer than Uganda Golf Club. I do think.
Again, from the field.
I do think. I'd have to get the yardages right.
Hole by hole and everything.
I think Entebbe is longer than Uganda Golf Club, yes.
Okay, yeah, but I just love that NCBA are into golf this big. I think their clientele is it's a target market for their clientele and everything.
Yes, it is.
And so it's understandable that they should be there, but they are establishing themselves as a golf brand, actually. NCBA.
Oh yes, and that tournaments are overly booked. They're overly booked. That shows you how golfers have embraced their competition and their brand, because typically, if you want to know how popular an event is, you just have to look at the draw and you'll ask yourself how many people have entered. And with NCBA, this tournament was overly subscribed. And I can tell you that even the one in Jinja will be overly subscribed, and even the one in Entebbe is going to be overly subscribed because the golfers and probably their clients do want to identify with both the tournament and the brand.
Okay. Yeah, but Mark, we talked last week, and you gave a great preview after we talked NCBA golf. You gave a great preview of the US Open and painted the picture. I had a few friends of mine say they had underestimated the toughness of that course until they listened to you break it down.
The course at Oakmont in Pennsylvania is one of the hardest courses there is out there. It's quite tough in every sense. Listen, it's a links course, so links courses are typically different from built courses. But secondly, the altitude there and the winds there, they make golf quite a challenge. But the biggest problem with Pinehurst for all golfers, be it amateur or professional, is the difficulty of playing it, the rough. The rough is rough, and it doesn't matter how good or average a golfer is. You're going to enter the rough at one point or another, whether you're called Tiger Woods or you're called Max Sully. And it was a challenge for golfers to scramble there. Scotty Scheffler, the world's best golfer, he was picking the ball and taking penalty drops because you had a rough which was as high, which was rising up to your waist, and you had terrible lies there.
Wow.
You had, even on the fairway, the greens were very, very fast. I saw very good golfers, 3-putting, 4-putting. Shane Lowry, one of the best golfers who's won a major before, at one point he picked his ball on the green and even smiled. Of course, when you pick the ball on the green, that's a penalty stroke. Because you're supposed to pick it from the cup, from the hole, when you've sunk it. You're not supposed to use your fingers anywhere on the green. You have to use your fingers when you're picking it from the hole. And he even laughed because he had to incur a one-stroke penalty. But that was because of the mental torture of playing that course. You know, you've been all over the place. You're playing from rough to rough, because when you're in the rough, it's difficult to manufacture a shot onto the green or back onto the fairway. And it was that sort of course. The winner, JJ Spawn, won the tournament after playing 1 under over the 4 days. And to play that 1 under, Mark, he had to birdie the 17th and 18th holes to go under. So the entire field was playing the course over par. You know, Rory McIlroy, who won the Masters, finished with 7 over, and that's because he played 67 on the final day. And I think that was because it was out of the contention. That's why he played some very, very good golf. Scotty Scheffler finished at, I think, plus 4. You had Bryson DeChambeau failing to make the cut.
Those were the 3 most talked about golfers before the Open were Scheffler, DeChambeau, and Rory McIlroy, because he had just won the
Bryson DeChambeau, who was the defending champion, because he won it at Pinehurst last year, he failed to make the cut.
McIlroy had been runner-up
McIlroy had to birdie the final hole on Friday to make the cut. He also struggled all through. Scotty Scheffler, Scheffler is brilliant, by the way. And because of his brilliance, he was neither spectacular nor poor. He just managed to fight and stay within respectability. So he played plus 4. So that coach tortured everyone, Mark. And the debate at Uganda Golf Club with many friends of mine, Saleh Kalema, and a couple of John Cato, and it's been that, how many would you play at Oakmont? You know, how many would we play with Jamie Biarhang and the likes? Because we're typically amateur golfers, and we have indices. But I kid you not, Mark, many golfers would be playing 200 strokes at Oakmont because of its difficulty.
Yeah, I saw that debate on one of the WhatsApp groups, actually, and it was between Andrew Banturachi and Colin Subika.
Yeah.
How many would you play?
No. I mean, you'll
in excess of 200.
It was punishing for the best golfers in the world.
Yeah,
that punishment would be tenfold for some of us.
But Mark, what I like about that is that then sometimes it's going to produce unlikely winners. So while everybody was talking about DeChambeau, McIlroy, and Scheffler, you get an unlikely winner, and it adds to the beauty of sport.
And what a story for JJ Spawn, because JJ Spawn, just over a year ago, he was not ranked. He was ranked 100 and I think 30th in the world.
30, yeah.
This is a guy who's been fighting diabetes.
Oh.
Yeah.
This is a guy who...
Diabetes, actually, he was misdiagnosed, Mark.
Yes.
They first told him he had type 2 diabetes.
Yes.
This is 2018, I
Yes.
think, because I've read his story.
Yeah.
And then he was treating the wrong thing.
Yes.
And then they later find out that he actually had type 1.
Yes.
So he's gone through controversy. Not
and
controversy, but the adversity.
Adversity. And then on the Sunday, actually, he had a daughter who I think had he had a high fever, and this is a guy who had to run to CVS, that's a pharmacy, to pick medicine for the daughter at 3 a.m. when you're teeing off the following day in the pressure group. So he says that crowning, that victory, was the best Father's Day present he could ever have.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Sunday was,
Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah.
This
and the daughter always asked him, Dad, have you won? Every time he goes out to play golf,
the daughter asks if he has
If
won.
he has won. Now, this time round, the daughter was there
Yes.
to see him actually win the biggest event of all.
Of all, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was only his second PGA win, isn't it?
It was actually his first major.
But
His
his
first
only
major,
his second
only his second
on the
PGA
tour.
win.
Time.
In fairness to JJ Spawn, he's been knocking on the door because at the Players' Championship this year, and the Players' Championship, the winner gets $4.5 million. It's actually rated as the fifth major of the year. Actually, for the Players' Championship, you can win more money than all the majors because the kit is quite huge. He competed against McIlroy in the playoff, and he came this close because he ran McIlroy very close. So he's been knocking on the door.
So it was about to happen.
It was about to happen. You can't come from nowhere to win a major mark. They've got to be some signs of
That you're about to.
You're
You're
about
about
to.
to. Yeah.
Yeah,
This fellow, that adversity. When you talk about that adversity back, I read somewhere that while skateboarding as a kid, I think at about 10 years or something, he was knocked by a car.
Wow.
And then he later told his dad he wanted to be a skateboarder, and the dad said, "No, thank you." And then he fancies himself as a guitar player. He plays the guitar. So I don't think, maybe golf was never his first choice, but here he is now as a US Open champion. I like that romance here of unlikely winners.
Absolutely,
Exactly,
absolutely,
yes.
absolutely. Actually, now the next major is in July 17th. Royal Portrush in Ireland, close to where McIlroy was born, and let's wait and see how that will go.